we do want to get into Jaylen Harvey. And one thing we're going to kind of do here in the weeks ahead, especially in the offseason, is kind of put a spotlight on a certain player. And with Jaylen Harvey coming up this weekend, I think he makes a lot of sense for this week's prospect spotlight. Sean, you and I both have picks on him already. I think anyone who has paid attention to the podcast, especially over the last couple of months, really should be familiar with Harvey by now. We have him at 6'2", 225, solid edge rusher from Quincy Orchard. Is it Quince Orchard? Quince Orchard, I believe it is. In Potomac, Maryland. Four-star prospect. On3 has him at number 265 nationally. The consensus is actually pretty much exactly the same with him at number 269. I don't know if he's Penn State's absolute number one defensive end target in this class. I would still lean towards a couple other guys, maybe like Dylan Stewart or a couple others. But he is certainly very high on their board and someone that I expect them to land at some point. Sean, that's probably not going to happen this weekend. I think you would agree with that.
I would agree with that. He's saying that he wants to play it out, go on visits and everything like that, and then eventually decide late in the process. I don't know that it's going to play like that either. This is a guy that we talked to in the fall, and we felt maybe if the feeling was strong enough that he could hop on board, but that doesn't. I mean, that's never been his plan, was to hop on board early or commit anywhere early. From a staff standpoint, they love this kid. I mean, you've got size limitations there at 6'2", 225-ish, solid length, but his get off is top of the class type level stuff. A lot of comparisons to Chop Robinson because Chop came from Quince Orchard. Obviously, a little bit more physically gifted with a 6'3" plus. But there's a lot to put beside one another and think that this is a similar prospect. The production is there. He can get after the quarterback. He's not a linebacker. I know people see 6'2", 225 and think, can this guy play linebacker? No, he's a guy that can just get after the quarterback on the edge. And Penn State has had more luck in the last couple of cycles. I know they've been looking for those 6'5" guys that come off the edge. Everybody's looking for those guys that have that ridiculous pop and length off the edge. And, it doesn't always happen, but they've had some success with Jesse Luketto, with Arnold Ebiketie, with Chop Robinson himself, with those guys that are 6'2", 6'3", somewhere in there. You don't have to be the longest guy. And I think that's gotten across to them. And you see the athleticism, you see the production, you see a lot of things that you like with Jaylen Harvey. And that's one guy that we've been focused on for a long time as a, maybe not the top of the board guy because of the size, because of the limitations there, but very close. And I think Penn State absolutely would be thrilled to land Jaylen Harvey anytime that they could.
Mm-hmm. I haven't found any stats on Harvey. I don't believe they tracked him yet this year for Quince Orchard, but they did go to the state championship and won the state championship this year. I want to make sure that is noted. They beat Flowers 32-7 down there, and I think that's in Annapolis is where they play that state championship game. So good year for him, good year for Quince Orchard. One other thing I'll note with Jaylen is that he did tell Chad Simmons this past weekend, March 11th, his birthday, is when he's aiming to announce a top 5. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a commitment March, April. I think that makes sense. I don't think Penn State wants this to get to official visits. Would you agree with that?
I would absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously they don't want them to, but they're in a good enough spot now where they should. I think they can get this done by the blue-white game. That makes sense to me. Let's see where else he visits, but I mean, just look at the visits, man. It's like 5-1. Penn State to every other school. Let's see how this weekend shapes up. But this is a player they absolutely should land. And, he's talking about doing a top 5 March, but I would fully expect him to probably visit Penn State another 2 times in March and April. And then that makes a lot of sense for the staff to, put the pedal to the metal and ramp up the pressure on Jaylen Harvey. So